Punk Rock Elite, a podcast about NOFX. The anniversary, Red.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sure all the listeners are knowing that we're recording this on the very day that Punkin Droblick turns 29 years young.
How exciting.
What a lovely, lovely day. It's not often we coincide with remarkable NOFX related events. You know, maybe we'll record a podcast on August 8th. Who knows?
Yeah. And if we do a Lagwagon episode, May 16th.
We're going to have to wait about a year for a Lagwagon episode. So if you were hoping for that, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there are other dates. If we do one about the Pogues, we'll have to wait until the bells are ringing out on Christmas Day. So, yeah, there we go. We got interview with a comedian today.
Yeah, this was a really good one. It's really nice to talk to an absolute mega fan.
Seriously, if you are under the impression you're a fan of NOFX, you might come away thinking, maybe there's more to my life, because Ali Brice... Ali Brice is just to the point of being an obsessive, I think. Self-confessed obsessive. We're not slagging anyone off here. So that's very, very exciting to hear. We're changing. Well, let's just admit a thing. We're changing it up. We used to record the intros and outros just after we recorded the main body of the episode, if it were an introduction, if it were an interview, beg your pardon, and we'd just record an intro, do the episode, and then record an outro in one fell swoop if we were doing a deep dive. We've changed that because we're quite ahead of ourselves in the schedule. For example, today, as you know, if you're thinking, oh, it must be, if it's the 29th anniversary of Punkin Droblick, then that means it must be the 20th of July 2023. You're like, yeah, obviously we're not going to condescend that you didn't know that, listeners dearest. But the episode that we're recording today will be going out possibly in early September. Therefore, anything we say about ourselves or about the world of punk rock will be wildly out of date come that time. So we're recording just a few days before the episodes go out in the hope of keeping you up to date with stuff.
Because, there are, every now and then, things pop up in terms of, news regarding, what we're talking about. We don't want to confuse you, the listener, being like, oh, this breaking news has just dropped. And you were like, I'm pretty sure that happened 2 months ago. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why. And, I mean, we'd love to tell you that this is something we sort of came to as a result of just thinking normally about stuff, but it's actually as a result of something really horrible. Because, normally we'd be having a party in a year's time to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Punkin Droblick. But what we'll actually be doing is celebrating the first anniversary of Anti-Flag splitting up.
Yeah, which is sad until you hear the circumstances for it, and then you go, oh, well, maybe it's a good thing.
These are still alleged circumstances. No names have been named, but enough clues have been dropped. And also, there's a podcast called This Is Enough about, and it's where people share their experiences of essentially content warning for sexual crimes, by the way. They share their experiences of sexual assault, specifically within the music industry. Okay. And
kind of depressing that there's enough content to get a full podcast.
Yeah.
Like a regular podcast out of something so specific.
Yes, absolutely. I hadn't heard of it before this morning. I have listened to the episode in question where because the lady in question hasn't named the person as specifically being just insane from Anti-Flag, even though that is where a lot of the evidence is pointing and people are making connections. I won't name her, but you can find the podcast very easily. Like I say, this is enough. She doesn't appear to be hiding from it. She made it very clear on the podcast she's not afraid to talk about this anymore, even though this happened a while ago. As we know, these things take time for people to work through whatever it is and work up enough, work up whatever it is they need to work up to actually talk about it.
Yeah.
And 14 hours after the episode was released, the entirety of Anti-Flag's social media presence, including personal accounts, gone, obliterated as if they were never there. And it doesn't feel like the behavior of an innocent person.
No, it seems to be taken quite seriously from the other band members, their management. I understand that like their Patreon's gone down.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems it's strange and sad, but also very what are the words? I think it's very brave of someone to come forward with such a strong allegation. Never easy to do so.
No.
But the speed in which Anti-Flag have broken up seems to lend a little bit of credence to it all.
I mean, these allegations like this are happening more frequently. And I don't think that's because of it being some sort of trend or someone with or people going, this is a good way to people who come forward and say this happened to me still get treated worse than the people who apparently did the thing. Generally speaking, it's not. Also, she's not coming forward and saying Dave Grohl did this. This is not an international megastar. I'm choosing Dave Grohl because he's an incredibly famous, musician. Don't read into that. But I'm saying someone of his status, of his fame, of his, he's a stadium-filling frontman of a rock band.
Yeah. This
was Anti-Flag. Not even the most famous band on their own headline tours. It's it's sort of this isn't it seems to be and also I think the thing with Anti-Flag is that because of their lyrical content, because of their political position, like I said, it wasn't like if someone said people have accused Marilyn Manson of things, and it's like, well, seems like a creep. Didn't give up all the weird creep stuff when he became too old for it. So we're not just doing this weird pantomime boogeyman thing. But
I always think it's the most disappointing when it comes from artists who, a lot of their career is railing against this sort of stuff. And
yes,
I would have liked to have thought an Anti-Flag gig was a relative safe space for women and for people of all genders and
of anyone
creeds.
who
I mean, it's kind of like their vibe, isn't it? And then
exactly,
I always find it the most disappointing when it's from people in that sphere.
Well, according to the podcast, she said the way that this singer.
And he is referred to as the lead singer, I believe.
Yes,
in the podcast.
referred to as the lead singer. This individual is referred to as the lead singer of an overtly political East Coast punk band, and put his age at about 40 years old about 10 years ago, and also pointed out that he was going to be in her town. She was in New York. She was about an hour away from New York. city. Went to see them, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be in your area for a film festival in September." There was a film festival in that, and there was and it was a film about protest songs. Someone had made a documentary, and they'd interviewed a lot of people. And some of the people they'd interviewed. So this is NOFX related: Jello Biafra, Henry Rollins, Fat Mike, and Justin Sane. Now, Fat Mike and Henry Rollins and Jello Biafra, none of whom were in East Coast punk bands, as political as they have been. Jello Biafra, don't know, was even in a sort of an active band at the time, maybe the Guantanamo School of Medicine. But, and also none of those other things fit. None of them had played a gig in New York at the right time. So
it was a lot. It's a lot like the if we've got any UK listeners, the recent furore about Hugh Edwards, where
yes,
when it first kicked off, we were just told an unnamed BBC presenter, pretty big, household name, 6-figure salary, that there were allegations to his name, and therefore Twitter went on a little bit of an Easter egg hunt trying to find out who it could be.
Yes.
And this is a similar situation. We've got all of the clues.
We're playing Guess Who at the moment. It's like, okay, so was he in a political protest song documentary? Yes, he was. Okay, click, click. It wasn't Jim from Pennywise. Okay, click, 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 click.
And I do recognise how depressing that all is.
And how flippant we're being.
Game. It's
absolutely. We are being flippant because this is how we process. And I understand us processing this is not the important bit of this story. Really, we do appreciate that. We're talking about some really heavy stuff, and we don't normally, but I think it's a real shame to do that. I do have some excellent news otherwise, which should hopefully lift this a little bit. But so we
sorry.
No, please.
I was just going to say also, we're not the biggest anti-flag fans. So I can't pretend that I'm as sad as some people may be listening to this podcast, because, I have seen them live a fair few times, and they are a pretty damn good live act, or they were.
Yeah.
But, never quite been my bag, because I've always thought that they were a little bit we all agree with these politics, but there's something about banging on about it that is a little bit suspect to me. And it turns out it was very suspect.
Yeah, I don't care for the term try hard, because some people are a lot more earnest than I am. I think being earnest is not a luxury one can afford if one is a comedian, because you can't not be open to the fact that the things you believe do have inherent absurdities to them.
Yes.
And an earnestness means that you go, no, this, you go Mandalorian about it, you go, this is the way. And it's like, I like Mandalorian, but if you just go, this is the way, it's like, mate, come on. You're not even thinking about this shit. That's why you're trying to drink a cup of coffee with a helmet on. It's, that the inherent absurdity of that. That it's just that sort of thing. An inflexibility. There are some things which I am inflexible on. Sex criminals in bands don't really have a lot of give in that. You know what I mean? So it's sort of. But there is something. They've never seemed like fun.
Yeah.
And I think if you're hiding what you do for fun, what is it that you're doing for fun? This is pure wild speculation now, and I appreciate that. If you are an anti-flag fan and you feel utterly let down by these revelations, I get it. I totally get it. It would be very upsetting. I heard one song. There was a Plea for Peace compilation that Jesse Michaels released. They had the first song on it, and it had. I remember quite liking it. I'd never heard them before, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And then it had a little instrumental breakdown where it had a clip of a Martin Luther King speech in the middle of it. And I was like, oh, no, it's still good, though. It's still good song. It was sort of, it felt really, it felt like the band was stood there staring you in the eye with their fingers across their lips. Like, you shut up and listen to this bit. This is the important. And it's like, I don't need this shit signposted for me. I'm able to listen to something and work out what the intended meaning is. It's not, anyway.
And also, hey, if you are an Anti-Flag fan, you're sad that they've broken up and all of that, just remember, Matt Skiba has recently left Blink-182, and he will join any band.
Absolutely.
So there is hope.
There is hope. That would be weird. If you've always thought, I'd love Anti-Flag if only they were slightly more occult adjacent. And there we go. The next album will be sort of about socialism and Aleister Crowley. Which, to be honest, I'm there. I mean, they've just, I can get on board with that, absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It does.
So, I mean, sorry to front load this episode with a little bit of trauma processing.
Yeah.
But, Eddie, I understand you had some nice news.
Yes, I do have some nice news. I'm just going to bring it up on my phone so I get all of the details correct. But we recently had in fact, it was yesterday, we had a message on Instagram. This is another reason we're recording the intros and outros for episodes a lot closer to the date of release, so that if you do send us something, you're not waiting a month and a half for us to go, and we got an email, and you just hear your own name and go, did I send them an email? Oh, I probably did, so got this from someone called Guy. I was about to say a guy called Guy, but that's like he's never heard that in his life. He doesn't need that. So anyway, this someone called Guy sent from Shadow Promotions. You can find them, Shadow Promotions DIY. That's the bit we're liking. Thank you. Said, hey, love listening to the podcast and just wanted to say listening to some of the episodes really helped us with that little extra push we needed to get our promotions thing up and running in Reading. Got our first show happening soon with some great bands. Many thanks and much love, Guy.
Lovely.
Isn't that wonderful? So I'm guessing that it was probably Paul and Ollie of the New Cross Tavern, Till the Wheels, all those wonderful enterprises, Stu from Face Down, all the DIY stuff. So yes, it's still happening, and that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Guy. It is Guy and James who are running it. And a big shout out to Zara, who's doing the designs, the flyers and stuff. So I'm going to find, let's see, view profile. Yes, so they have at the Butler in Reading on the 6th of October. Oh, plenty of time. Get your £6 in advance, £8 on the door. Can't say fairer than that, can you?
No.
Filthy Militia and Tape It Shut, along with Bald Head and the Dreads, Launch Control, and Prey. So if you are Reading or Reading adjacent in the UK, get down there. Show up. I don't know what the Butler's like. I don't think I've been to Reading once, and I don't remember it a great deal, as I think I was getting a coach from somewhere to somewhere else, like some sort of troubadour. But yeah, so Shadow Promotions DIY, follow them, give them a follow on Instagram and Facebook, just to even if you're living somewhere totally different, gives them a little bump. It makes them a bit more visible and they can get out and do all of the good stuff. So I think that would be a brilliant thing to do. So
absolutely.
Yes, speaking of other brilliant things, let's brilliant this up a bit more. Ali, Brice.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to this chat. But also, before we jump into it, I'd love to give a little shout out to the Midlife Punk Podcast,
yes,
who had us on recently. Had so much fun recording an episode with them.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a really great episode. If you want to go and find it, It's available from all good podcast providers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Midlife Punk Podcast, right?
That's correct, yes.
Lovely.
Yes, the Midlife Punk Podcast. It's it's other old people from the UK, not like 77 era old, just like 90s punk old. They're old enough to know better. They do a lot of brilliant interviews with tons and tons of bands. You'll be able to find so many new groups to listen to, and they asked us. We had them on not so long ago. Go and find that episode because that was great fun. Mm-hmm. And they asked us, and I rather cheekily asked if we could do one of their compilation reviews because I love those episodes. And we listened to Give 'Em the Boot Volume 2. So very little NOFX talk.
Yeah.
So very exciting indeed. But yeah, that was really, really good fun. Oh, it's a long one.
Oh, yeah. But it's a goodie.
It is a goodie, yeah. If you've got yourself a long commute or a family event for the members of the family that you don't enjoy, you can listen to that in one ear whilst nodding along to whatever Uncle Twat has got to say. But Ali Brice, a comedian based down in that London, has got all sorts of exciting prospects. I think you can see them at the Fringe this year. I think he's doing up in Edinburgh.
Big Edinburgh Fringe favourite. If you are heading up to that arts festival, do check out Ali Brice.
You want to see some unusual sort of left field stuff? I think. Beg your pardon. I think he's also doing a sort of a crowd work show, which is all just audience interaction, which is a lot of fun. And when someone's good at that, there's very little better. You come out with a very unique show each time. So do that. But look, we're just going to bounce straight in. 20 minutes in, I'm like a fucking YouTube tutorial. So we're just going to go right ahead and bounce in to this episode. So do listen to Ali Brice. We'll talk about it when we get back. Red and I are here with Ali Brice. Hello, Ali.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. You're down in that London, am I right?
I am in London, near Farringdon, King's Cross way.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just if people want to picture it.
That's the sort of the nearest thing that will have been on the telly that you can identify with. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice one. Thank you so much. Would you like to just introduce yourselves for our listeners?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ali Brice, comedian of sorts, and big NOFX fan. And I also have a moustache. If anyone doesn't know me and wants to picture me, it's like a Ted Lasso kind of moustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Amazing. Now people are just listening to a professionally funny moustache.
Yeah.
That's good. That's hey, it's a Twitter biog if you need one. So excellent, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. How did you? You do comedy as a job.
Yeah.
But you're clearly a big fan of punk rock. When did you get into that? Which was it first? Was it comedy or punk?
Well, comedy first. Comedy from a very young age. It's weird because I was never into music. Like I don't have an older brother, and I think that's kind of a way, or an older sibling. That's how you kind of get into music, isn't it? So I wasn't, my friends, I remember going around their houses and seeing, like, I didn't know what it was, but like that Michael Jackson album cover, it's got like gold, and I was like, what? Why do I keep seeing this everywhere? And then later on, I was like, all their older siblings were listening to Michael Jackson, so they all got into Michael Jackson. Anyway, I wasn't into music or sports or anything really. Yeah. And then my dad was watching Harry Enfield Jump, and I was like, oh, what's this? This seems they're doing things and people are laughing. And then eventually I discovered stand-up comedy and was like, whoa, what is this? And so I'd be going down I'd buy Lee Evans VHSs from charity shops and like 10 odd tapes, and then I'd rent DVDs from the wherever the rental store was near me, and like stay in and just watch, just devour stand-up comedy, and then come back from the pub and see live at Jongleurs and live at the Comedy Store, and I just love it. I just loved it. Then I started being funny at school, and was like, someone said to me, like, his name was Joe Bardi, and we were 8, and he went, "You're going to be a comedian?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." So it was like cemented from an early age.
Nice.
And then music, I got, my mum would listen to Phil Collins, and I'm a big Phil Collins fan. You know, I'm not ashamed of that. And then I got into Divine Comedy and Beautiful South, and then my younger brother came home from school with So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes, and he played me Murder the Government, and my initial reaction was, "What the fuck is that? That's too short to be a song. I hate it." Like, I really was like, "That's awful." And then for whatever reason, he was listening to them, and you know, they were just kind of there. And I think I was probably in like Green Day and Blink-182. I kind of got into that back in the days when you listen to albums all the way through and read the liner notes. And then I started seeing like, oh, the NOFX is popping up here and there. And I was like, oh, that's what my brother brought home. And then I started listening to it, and I've just become a lifelong fan. Something clicked to me, and I was like, I absolutely love this band. And it's been like a lifelong, it's an obsession. Like, I love NOFX. I'm obsessed with them. Yeah. So that's what. So
because we've seen, there were some photos of you with like Fat Mike and some of the other members recently. Like, have you been to some of their final shows?
Well, yeah, I went to the Hatfield show, which I didn't think I'd go to, because I saw them in 2018, or the last time when they played Brixton, and I thought they were awful, you know, as NOFX can be live. I was like, this is so disappointing. Like, Fat Mike's was in, like, you know, drunk and on drugs, and clearly didn't give a fuck. You know, like, he talks about giving 60 or so %. He gave way less than that, and I was just like, this is shit. And I was like, I'm never going to see them again. And then I saw they were doing their final tour, and I was genuinely heartbroken. And I was like, right, well, and then I found out it's at festivals, and I was like, no, do club shows. Yeah. What are you talking about, doing festivals?
Yeah.
And then I saw the Bro package and was like, okay, so, which for people that don't know, the Bro package was, you get to watch them from the side of the stage, and you get to have a photo with the band at the beginning, so chance to meet. And it cost £500. So I paid £500 to watch NOFX's last show in the UK, which luckily I didn't regret, because I then watched all their shows and YouTube videos from the first shows they were doing in America that also had the Bro package, to try and see where people were standing. And a lot of them were standing at the back of the stage behind the amps, behind the drums, and couldn't see anything. And I was like, what the fuck have I just spent £500 on? Like, this is insane. And I was really, really nervous. But luckily, then I watched the footage from the Leeds show and saw people were like right on the side on, quite near the front. And that's where we were in Hatfield. And you better believe I got pictures with Fat Mike, and then was like, right, I got my So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes signed, and was like, right, I've got a choice here. I can try and get pictures with Smelly, Melvin and Hefe, or I can get to the front of that. I can get the best spot on stage. So I went and rushed to the front and got to the front of the barrier, and then luckily Smelly and Melvin came up, and I got pictures with them and had a little chat with them. I never got Hefe, but I had the time of my life. It was awesome. Amazing. They'd been rehearsing, they cared, they played the songs, they were tight. It was So Long and White Trash. I loved every second of it. It was money well spent, and a little dream come true for this NOFX nerd.
That's incredible. I love that, because there's been some chatter, because we started this basically as a response to them saying, oh, we're not going to tour anymore.
Yeah.
And we're sort of trying to process what a world without the inevitable NOFX appearance is like. Something I noticed Rolling Stones fans haven't had to worry about, so they can count themselves bloody lucky.
Yeah.
We've been sort of frequenting more forums or Facebook pages of NoFX stuff, people talking about all the stuff coming up, and there's been a lot of complaints about the Pro package, but I don't know if people actually read what it was beforehand. There's some people going, can't believe it, I had to miss Lagwagon because we had to go and queue to get on the stage. I'm like, what, you think you were getting transported there by magic? What you it's really weird.
Yeah.
So also, it's nice to hear that someone who spent it and was like, this was absolutely worth every penny.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time. And also, you don't have to miss Lagwagon. You just have to stand at the side of the stage and be like, right, I have to be ready to meet here at, if you read the instructions, it's fine. Also, I don't mind missing Lagwagon. I think they're very boring live. I'm not interested in them.
I was, even as a Lagwagon fan, I didn't think that the show we saw at Leeds was like
the
best
performance. I think Joey seems to be, maybe he's losing his voice, or he seems a bit ill or something, a bit tired. But they're old men.
That's it. It was a lot of very old people, and the maths were what we got to watch. But I think one of the things is it's very odd because they're doing like half an hour, even like because we had Less Than Jake as the main support, and they can't have done more than half an hour.
Yeah,
and it seems wild. It's like I get like the first handful of bands doing half an hour each, especially when you've got like Co-Defendants, like they've got one record. It's like you're playing most of a record, maybe not even all of it. But then
I love the Co-Defendants, by the way.
Are you a fan?
Yeah,
I've been working through. Every time I listen to them, I like them a little bit more. I think it's just sort of incrementally working up. Although there was a few sound problems with them live at Leeds, that the mix was no, absolutely not their fault. The mix was a little tricky because 3 guitars, which seemed unnecessary. See also Lagwagon, but they had that, and the whoever was mixing it, the computer that was playing the sort of beats and sampley bits, that wasn't blended well in the mix either. But they were definitely giving it some. I enjoyed watching them. I thought they were good. But I've listened to the album a few times, and I just like that it exists. Currently, I like more that it exists than I actually enjoy it. There are sometimes you go, I'm glad this is happening.
Yeah, fair enough.
It might not be for me, but but it's I do think it's good, and I'm interested to hear what else they do. But that's cool. So you had a slight. You didn't have. Did you have Co-Defendants, or did you have Get Dead at Hatfield?
We had Get Dead, who were fantastic. Right. I only got into them with Dancing with the Curse, but they were awesome. Better than they were on record. I think that Sam guy is like he's an excellent performer. He clearly gives his all to everything.
Yes.
They were my second favourite band on the lineup. Yeah. We had Meths, Anti-Flag, Comeback Kid, Co-Defendants, and Lagwagon. I think that's who we had.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, you guys, you got Anti-Flag. We didn't have Anti-Flag. We had Less Than Jake instead. And
were they main support then, Anti-Flag?
Lagwagon were the ones before NoFX. I would have preferred to have Less Than Jake than Anti-Flag.
Fair enough. Although Less Than Jake were a bit hamstrung.
I think
they were legally
operating...
prohibited from playing anything from Hello Rock. They couldn't play anything from Hello Rockview because they were doing the entirety of Hello Rockview as part of their Slam Dunk thing. So contractually, they couldn't do any Hello Rockview. So what age did you say you were when you first heard NoFX? And then was it then that you sort of really got into the sort of the punk rock side of things?
I was probably about 13 or 14 when my younger brother played me NoFX, and like I said before, I really didn't like it. at that point I'd been listening to. I probably had the opinion that songs have to be at least 3 minutes to be a proper song. So when I heard "Murder the Government," I was like, "No, that's rubbish." But I think I was already listening to Blink and Green Day, but it was NOFX when I finally got into them that like opened up the world of punk rock, and I think that's a natural progression, like Blink, Green Day, NOFX, and then through that I got into like Fat Wreck and then into record labels, and like kind of figuring all that stuff out. But I can't really. I've been listening to them and loving them for so long now. I can't really remember the moment when I like fell in love with NOFX. I just,
Gotcha.
it's so ingrained in me now. Like I listen to them most weeks, if not most days. So, and I think what they do is, Fat Mike's obviously the captain of the ship, but I just think everything that he has done, independent band, he's done it his own way. There's no like underhand. There's nothing wrong with what he's done. Like he may be a punk rock millionaire, but he's not made his money in a bad way. He's just done what he wants and taken his best friends along with him. And then through Fat Wreck, given all these like bands careers, and in a way, I think kept punk rock alive for people. So that's why I like them. It's more than just the music, which is awesome. It's the whole like world around it. And I don't know any other bands where I know the roadies or follow them on Instagram and like I'm interested in like people outside the band. I think it's wicked. I just love it.
There is a whole cast of characters outside of the main four, because we said this really early doors, but there is a sort of, they're like the young ones in that they're all very distinct characters who you think wouldn't necessarily rub along together too well, but really can't function without one another. Obviously they can, but in this sort of heightened cartoony version of themselves. And there's something very appealing about that.
And then I was when I went to the Hatfield show on my own, because no one I know really likes NOFX. And then it's that weird thing where I can take a step back and go, well, objectively, I think they are quite bad. Like they're not a good band, but I love them. I think they're awesome. It's that weird thing. I think they're brilliant. Anyway, my friends were like, my brother said, "Oh, maybe I'll get you a ticket for your birthday," and I was like, "I don't think you will, because the ticket I've got costs £500. And he was like, "Okay, fine." So I went on my own. And I bumped into another dude who'd got the bro package, which, as a side note, I think is an awful name for the ticket. But we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, maybe they'll just maybe the Melvin Smelly and Hefe will carry on like without Fat Mike. I mean, they could just play NOFX songs." And I was like, "Nah, you need the four of them. You need the four of them to be together. Even if Fat Mike was like, I'll play with 3 other musicians," you'd be like, nah, it has to be the 4 of them. They're the band. Yeah,
absolutely. It's not like they could do, because this isn't just someone quitting. Like when Milo left the Descendants and they became All for a long time. As longer than they were the Descendants, I think, until the Descendants got back together. It's sort of, you can sort of do that, because like the Descendants, not to take anything away from the 3 sort of musicians, but Milo was the cartoon character in that.
Exactly.
The weird little guy with his thermos flask attached to him and his big specs and stuff, and he's the character on the front of the cartoon and all that stuff. You take that away, then obviously you got 3 kind of faceless blokes who can just get another singer and do loads of stuff. But with this, it's sort of I think it might be the first parasocial relationship I ever had.
You
know what I mean? Like, because these days people talk about YouTubers or Instagram influencers, are doing this thing where people are investing too much in them and everything they do. And I'm like, yeah, wouldn't catch me doing that.
Yeah, right.
Fat Mike did what?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Oh, come on. It's pathetic, really.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be without it. And
No,
so this,
same.
and
same.
so, poured over that book when the book came out.
Yeah.
I got it on audio. I just listened to it back to back twice through because I just had to. It was
same.
And because if you got into them in the 90s, they didn't do interviews or anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't find anything anywhere.
Yeah.
So the minute they dropped out any little tidbit, you'd be pounce on it and just...
Yeah. I'm totally the same.
Yeah.
I bought a pack of plectrums. Do you see that when he Jim Dunlop? He was like, Jim Dunlop has had the same pick moldings for like forever. Yeah. And then Fat Mike managed to convince him to press somewhere. I was like, yeah, I'll buy them. I
haven't bought any of those, but I do in terms of it's. But it's funny. It's something that like, and all this sort of like stuff like 7-inch of the month club and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any. I simply couldn't justify spending money I just didn't have. On that kind of stuff.
I went on Facebook like before lockdown, or maybe 3-4 years ago, and it was like suggested group, and it was this group called NOFX Vinyl Collectors Only, and I clicked on it and was like, oh yeah, I think I clicked on it and was people talking about NOFX like sincerely and with love, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this place. So talking about the music, but then they're talking about all the variants and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy some NOFX records, and I am in a deep dark hole of trying to collect every NOFX, which I can't. So I've cut off. I'm not interested in liberal animation. I'll go from S&M Airlines onwards, and even then I won't get variants. I'll get variants from Punk and Drublick onwards. But it's like impossible. There are people on there who have like every single pressing and every single variant of NOFX records. It's seriously impressive. But it's a great place for someone like me who loves NOFX to go and not feel so alone.
It's weird because there's the NOFX aficionados Facebook group, which seems to be 60% going, why the fuck are NOFX so shit? And it's a really, really weird way to go about. But then again, I also like Doctor Who and comic books. Right. I'm well used to fandoms that hate the thing they love. No one hates NOFX more than their biggest fan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an amazing
world. I go through the same thing, single album and double album, really excited. Listened to them the first time and I was like, this is dog shit. I hate it. It's rubbish. But then I keep listening to it and go, oh, actually, it's brilliant. I think they're really good albums still. Apart from double album, the Stephen Hawking song. Get rid of that. I hate that song. Waste of time. Like it's terrible. But I think there's some great work on it. My Favourite Enemy, I listen to constantly. I think that's a really good song.
I really like Don't Count on Me from double album. I think that's a great one. Yeah, the Stephen Hawking song. It's like it's really weird how they'll devote so much time to recording a song that is just kind of. It's not really as edgy as I don't know. It's like sometimes there's a bit of edgelord that sneaks out, and it's a bit irritating, but whatever.
Pointless. Yeah,
it's a bit. I don't know. I always. This is a thing. I don't think since the announcement, or not an announcement, but Fat Mike has said a few times. One of the things he wants to do after NOFX is go into stand up.
Yeah.
And interested to hear your take on it because I think. He'll either be very good or really open spot level edgelord.
Yeah, crap. I have. He's quite a confident chap, isn't he? Like he's.
Oh yeah.
And fair play to him. He doesn't really have. He doesn't hold back, and he's like.
Sure.
That's just how he's got to where he is. But there are some things you can look at for evidence. For example, the single album vinyl pressing. Has a different introduction to For Grieve Soto, which and it has him telling a story about meeting Steve Soto from the Adolescence, I think he was in, and I think it was recorded in a comedy club, and it's a nice story because you're hearing about Fat Mike meeting his hero and getting his name wrong, but you're like, this wouldn't actually be that good in an actual comedy club.
Yeah.
And then recently he's uploaded, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, he's done this Fat Mike, like with Baz, the Frenchman, the Strings Guide to Decline. And
I'm a rat.
Yeah, have you seen that? And the little introduction he does to that, which is kind of how he'd be on stage. And I don't think it's very good. Like, I'm not interested in hearing him talk, really. I think it's in between banter.
Yeah.
On a NOFX show is okay, but it's quite awkward and quite like you say, he doesn't have the chops to be a stand-up comedian. And I think he thinks what he's saying is really interesting and really funny, and it isn't.
When I heard he was, having a go at stand-up, I thought, oh, well, that is
terrible.
Yeah. Well, because we spoke to Will Hodgson about it as well, and Will's perspective on it was, well, it's not going to be uneventful.
Yeah.
Which I think is a pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, surely what would make more sense is if he kind of bills it more as spoken word, and he basically does.
Exactly. I'd love to hear his stories. I mean, that's why that's what's so great about him. It's like our access to the 80s and the early punk scene that we're never ever going to experience. That's what he's managing to keep alive.
That was exactly Red's point about a lot of NOFX is that they are a cloyingly nostalgic act. But you just don't recognise it as cloying nostalgia because you weren't there, so it seems like this exotic world.
Yeah, I think it's probably also an astute business decision on Fat Mike's part. You weren't there, I'm going to sing about it, and he paints all these pictures, and it's kind of latter day NOFX. He starts singing about it, doesn't he? Especially on, but. Yeah, I'd love to see him do an hour of like stories from my life and whatever. Yeah. But stand up, no thanks.
I think because that's it. I think because people have sort of gone, oh, have you seen any of Henry Rollins' stand up? I go, I don't know that I would classify that as stand up again. And it's like Jello Biafra has always done spoken word.
Yeah.
And it's been sort of essentially essays in lecture form, and there may be a wry thing in it. There, you might come away from it going, I didn't expect to laugh so much. But if they build it as stand-up, you go, I didn't expect to laugh so little.
Yeah, I went to see Henry Rollins do a show at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2013, 14, or whatever it was, and it was genuinely great. He's a great and like so much passion and like solid for an hour. And it was kind of funny, but yeah, you're right. If it was billed as stand-up, you'd be like, no.
It's because Fat Mike's friends with Doug Stanhope and stuff, so I think he sort of thinks that, I don't know. It's like, is that enough to be a stand-up?
Right.
I'm not convinced, but then I don't know. I imagine I don't want to be too gatekeepery about who can do stand-up, because if Mike basically just wrote 10, went to an open mic night and sort of like worked out how to actually do it, I'd be all for it. And stuff, but it's that sort of idea that you can just because all of the great stuff, all of the funny stuff that happens on stage with NOFX is because of NOFX, not just Mike. If you don't have Hefe and Melvin, even Smelly joining in, mucking around and all that stuff, it's some of it is genuinely like really, really funny and sort of spontaneous stuff. But anyway,
it's just like when like really good improvisers have a go at stand-up. I mean, there's they are gifted at comedy; they can make people laugh. But like stand-up is so specific, and it's such a disciplined art form that I don't know. Like I don't think it's something that you can just have a go at.
Exactly. But Fat Mike definitely thinks he's got because he's had the stage time. Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
And he can sell tickets,
Oh, if it was happening near me, obviously I'd go.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not giving you any crap like that. If he turned up at the Wardrobe in Leeds, obviously I'm going. It's an absolute. I'd be trying to get on support.
Yeah, exactly,
I'd literally be trying everything I could, but whilst all the time thinking this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea. But,
I'm not going to have any fun, but I'm going to go.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that that is what quite a lot of doing stand-up is like. Okay, this is definitely a bad idea. You're going to not do it? Absolutely, I'm going to do it. What, you think I'm a coward?
Yeah.
So, but that's the... yeah, so that I think it's an interesting one. We've got a few comedians coming up in our interview thing, and I want to get the perspective of this, not to dissuade him, just to make him not... I'm not making him do anything, but it'd be nice if he rethought it. Maybe he is thinking about doing it this way. And also, if he's friends with a comedian like Doug Stanhope, then maybe Doug Stanhope will say, "Okay, but don't claim to be one already. Do it properly, or earn your spurs or whatever." But again, ultimately, unfortunately, we have to come to terms with the fact that that all the advice in the world will not stop someone who is bad at stand-up continuing to be bad at stand-up, as I'm sure
stand-up,
we're very aware of. And I imagine that every single one of us has been used as an example of that in other conversations like this. So I'm not even going to claim otherwise.
100%.
Just how it is, isn't it? So let's get on to the questions. These the standard questions we like to ask. Do you have a favourite NOFX song?
I mean, again, Movable Feast, it changes all the time. But I think, excluding The Decline, I
said that.
songs I listen to a lot. Recently it's been Bleeding Heart Disease from Heavy Petting Zoo. I think that's a great song. I love Dinosaurs Will Die. I think it's brilliant. I play along to that all the time. But I really love Bath of Least Resistance, which was a B-side from Pump Up the Volume, I think. And it was on Punkorama, one of the Punkorama compilations. But I think that's an awesome song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of their version of Teenage Lobotomy, isn't it? It's got a sort of thematic.
I just think it's like
Bath of Least Resistance. Wow.
Yeah. But I think it's because then I kind of imagine it being on Pump Up the Volume and go, it doesn't really work because it's like a bit edgier, a bit meaner, a bit darker. But it's like it's just slightly different NoFX. I just quite like it. Short, sharp. I mean, they're all short and sharp, but there's just something. It's got a little something else to it that you don't usually hear. I think, because I think obviously each album is like quite distinct. If you're an NoFX fan, obviously if you played them to other people, they'd go, "Oh, this all sounds the same," but it's quite distinct. And that Bath of Least Resistance is just really, really powerful and quite quite tricky to play. I like playing a lot, tried to play along with it, and it's quite fast, and that I found that quite interesting. It's not groundbreaking, obviously, but I think Fat Mike is quite good at making the punk rock formula quite different and exciting. It's always slightly different from how you'd expect it to be and what other bands are doing. He always manages to find like a new rhythm or a new chord sequence or a new something that makes it that little bit NoFX.
Yeah, I think Mike is someone who gets bored quite easily.
Yeah.
And so sort of finding little inversions and little tweaks and alterations to what you'd typically have. And I think that's possibly why he was into hardcore, because we were saying when we were looking at the earlier albums, because they're still doing that sort of RKL inspired sort of hardcore-y thing.
Yeah.
It's all it'll be super fast for 8 bars, and then it'll go down into a sort of a breakdown for 4 bars, and then it'll go to a different tempo, and the riff will change, and it's real ADHD kind of fuel. It's sort of and you see like I went to see Gel at Boom in Leeds a couple of months back, and all of the opening bands were these sort of US style hardcore bands, and honestly, it felt like, because it was like, okay, we've done a fast bit now, we've got to go to a sort of a slow bit where everyone sort of, and then the pit starts up again kind of speed. And it felt at certain points like their drummer just wasn't like, had just been like, eating cheese and smoking fags for a month. It was like, I can do the fast bit for a bit and then it's going to slow down.
Right. Yeah.
And like they're doing circuit training or something. It was a really, really weird thing, because it just sort of, it didn't feel natural. It just felt like you've got that tick.
Right. Okay.
There's a bit where, it really sunk in when the singer was doing this sort of wild-eyed, starey stuff, would sort of, one of them had a song called Zoo, and they go, "This place is a zoo," and then do a big jump and everyone join and all this stuff. And then one of the guitarists broke a string, and they all just suddenly turn away. Oh no, what are we gonna do now? The other band's got in here, got a spare guitar. Okay, yeah, get it back on. Then as soon as the guitar's on and tuned up, like, I'm ready to go now. Okay, then this planet is a hellhole, and it's like, guys, you couldn't what?
Yeah,
and it sort of, if that string hadn't broken, you'd have gone, well, that guy's pretty wild.
Right.
And it's just like, oh no, I think we got to go big now. Really like, yeah, all right. But I mean, which I love, because I find that very endearing. But it's also like, is it just by numbers? But I think, Bartholese Resistance, we've not had that. That's a great choice.
Yeah,
because I really do like that one as well. I think I first heard it on the 45, 46 sort of B-side rarities compilation.
Yeah, which is a great compilation.
Yeah, there's so much stuff on there. There's really, really cool stuff. And it's weird because we were going through. We did the Fuck the Kids EP recently, and I think all of them except for one of them shows up on that. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I do know these, and it's interesting to hear all these and you sort of go, wow, there's loads of really short songs, like shorter than usual. That's because they were putting them out like 10 on a 7-inch. Yeah, they had to be short. They just don't have the space. So,
I found that weird, because I'm telling Tim is on Fuck the Kids EP. And he says the line, "You won't play again at Gilman Street" on the EP, and then on So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes, he changes it to "You won't play again at ABC." And I always wondered why he did that. I mean, I don't know why. I'm like, are you trying to keep Gilman Street a secret from like people that don't know about it? I don't know what ABC is. I would just love to know what. Yeah.
Presumably it's the TV network.
Oh, is it?
Have they done a performance on there?
Oh, maybe.
There's ABC.
Right.
NBC.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm an idiot like that. I just thought ABC. Yeah. Just guessing. That's a nice theory.
I assumed it was another venue, but ABC is entirely possible.
Yeah.
But then also Tim, I think it's Tim Yohannan was the guy's name, Maximum Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
I don't think he had any say over who played on the ABC network.
Right, yeah.
But he did on he did over Gilman Street and stuff. Yeah. He was the gatekeeper, wasn't he? He was it's sort of quite a tongue in cheek, because there's another song, I can't remember the name of NOFX. There's like, I don't miss something, I do miss my old friend Tim, which I believe is a reference to.
Yeah. That's isn't that We Threw Gasoline on the Fire?
It is, yes. It's one of the Punkorama releases. Yeah, this is great. You're like that guy that George R.R. Martin calls when he tries to work out what plot he's not done yet in Game of Thrones. Just so, could this happen? Not really, because that guy's there now.
Yeah,
right. Over there. Oh, right. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that's very. Yeah, but yeah, he finishes it. I do miss my old friend Tim.
Yeah,
and so, in which case, I think that would have been out before I'm Telling Tim, so maybe but that's because some of those are changes. I mean, I prefer the So Long version because it has the Mel yell in it and the little guitar flourishes, and it also has that halftime bit at the end. It's just it's one of my absolute favorites.
It was a contender for my favorite song for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And they played it at Hatfield, and I was like, yes, got my phone out to record it.
Yes. Well, it was a contender for mine when in the first episodes, Red and I did the questions to each other, and I imagine by the end of it, we might do them again when we get to the end of all their albums and stuff, and see if we've changed our minds, because we probably will have done. I said that mine were flexible, like you say, it's that movable feast. But I chose Laurie Myers as my favorite, and
nice.
and then we got to see them do it with Karina at Leeds, and that was just phenomenal. And what I love about that as well is that because it starts so instantly, it takes you a few seconds to realize that they're actually playing it for your brain to catch up. And then you go, oh! So you're always slightly on the back foot, which makes it more exciting for me anyway. Hello everyone, Eddie here. Red and I hope you're enjoying our show. If you have been and would like to help us make it a little more easily, then you can donate to us at our Ko-fi page, which is ko-fi.com/punkrockelite, or you can look in the show notes for our link tree. If you can't help us financially, we totally understand, but would love it if you spread the word to other people who would like this podcast. We thank you for your continued support. We massively appreciate it. Back to the show. Cool. So what's your favorite NOFX album, do you think?
Again, it's so tough. Such a tough. That's such a tough question. But I think it is either So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. I just think it's a brilliant album.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. But I also like Pump Up the Volume. I think that is a great album. I think it's slightly sloppy, and it does feel like Fat Mike was like, oh shit, I better release an album, and he just like knocked it out. That's not to say the songs aren't good. I think they're great, but it does feel like a man who knows how to write songs, and it's just gone there. But I still think they're good songs. So I probably would say So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. And then I think Heavy Petting Zoo deserves to just be out on its own, because it's such a weird little album. And it's got so I think that just is just there, and I like Heavy Petting Zoo, and I listen to it quite a lot every now and again. I get obsessed with it. But So Long definitely, I think, is what I'd say is their best album for me.
Yeah. Well, that was my choice as well.
Yeah.
But that was precisely the time that I was sort of getting into them. That was the album.
Exactly.
And so sort of I consider that, I still consider that to be like the cutting edge current NOFX incarnation, as one does when you get in. So I'm like, well, something old school like Punk in Drublic.
Yeah.
Very, very old record of theirs. Not like one of this new shiny one, So Long, Thanks for All the Shoes. But, it was only released 25 years ago or something. That's the terrifying thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it is. We actually did our little deep dive episode on that one last night.
Oh right.
So it's fairly fresh in the head.
Oh cool.
And it is quite a singular album in it. We were just talking about how trebly it was.
Yeah.
How mid-rangey it is. There's very little bottom end, which is unusual. But if you've come from Heavy Petting Zoo, which is largely bottom end, then the pendulum swung quite a long way to the other. So anyway. But yeah, cool. That's good. So do you have a favorite NOFX lyric? You seem to be very, very up on the contents of all the songs, which is I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah, I do. It's I've got a couple. I'm always impressed with Take Two Placebos and Call Me Lame. They're just a little bit where he goes, give a man a key, he cannot not open the door. Give him something free and he'll resell it to the poor. I just think that's a nice couplet. I really like that. But my actual favourite lyric of theirs is from Agony of Victory on Coaster, where he just says, I define success as not working and I live like a king. That's just like that is what I think, and I think that probably sums up Fat Mike's outlook on life. And I remember listening to that album when it first came out, and I was in a in a corner shop buying cider, a big bottle, 2-litre bottle of Strongbow, because I used to drink in those days, and that lyric came on, and I was like, oh wow, that is, and that's kind of, I just think that's a good way to live, and that's my favourite. It's not their best song, it's not their best album, but I just love that lyric. I define success as not working, and I live like a king. I think it's something to aspire to. Because I don't think it doesn't mean be lazy and do nothing and be a slacker. It just means find what you love and do that, and you'll probably be happy. So that's what sums it up for me. Yeah.
Well, it's back to that idea of success and what Fat Mike appears to consider success, and he's very much sort of, well, if everyone is successful, then that means success. If only I'm successful, what does that matter when everyone else is struggling? Either everyone in this scene is successful or no one is. It's that sort of no one left behind thing, and all right, people might go, oh well, some of these bands that he signed, they may be able to pay their mortgage, but he's a millionaire. It's like, they never thought they'd be able to pay their mortgage by playing
exactly.
punk band. But who does that? Like, anyone that can do that, that's pretty impressive. You got to go, well, what were you doing? When
exactly.
People sort of go, oh well, this person, all right, they're it's just in our industry, if you go, well, look, this person has a house and a nice life from doing comedy. Well, I've never heard of him.
No, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
You're hearing of that. They could work a hell of a lot more doing shit they don't particularly want to do to get you to hear of them.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be pleased about it. It doesn't matter if you might hear of them one day, but it's going to be an accident rather than a design,
or on their own terms.
Yeah,
totally.
Precisely. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's that's a very appealing thing. Was that one of the songs from Home Street Home?
Might be. I know he did what.
I think
I think it is. I think it is. Come on. Underachievers. Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it's great. I really like that. I saw it. Have you seen the musical?
It was popped on YouTube a while ago, wasn't it? Quick YouTube to MP4 so I can download it. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they even put the playbill at the end so you can see all the credits and stuff. I was looking at it, I'm like, is that the guy from the Dropkick Murphys? That's the guy from Living End. And the onstage musicians are like, that is Chris Chaney from the Living End. That is, but it is great.
It's cool, yes. Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. And so hopefully, I think the COVID put pay to that for a little bit, but I think apparently it's going to be coming back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
they're going to do a movie of it or something. But
I wonder if because he wrote it with Soma, didn't he? So
he did, yes.
I wonder if there's like tricky stuff there, but I'm sure it'll be. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't. Maybe. But then also with the guy who did Avenue Q as well. So
that's true.
There's 3 people involved in there, so maybe there can be mediation or something.
Yeah.
I think certainly post their splitting up, he made some videos with his daughter singing one of the roles and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think they sort of rewrote it for film, maybe. So that's interesting. Matt Skiba was going to play the cop for a while.
Yeah,
and then they said he's just not. He had to drop out because he's like, look, I can't do this night after night. If this is a movie, I could do it, but I can't. I'm not an actor in that sense. I could do this, but I'm not a theatre actor, which is a very hard. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do, darling, but it is.
It is, of course,
pretty draining to do that same thing every time over and over again.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great choice. I love that you're cutting deep on this. This is fantastic. I think we might have already answered this. But yeah, what's your favourite memory of NOFX?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I can get soppy and say it's my brother playing me Murder the Government for the first time, even though I was like, I hate that, but I do love the fact it's my younger brother that got me into NOFX because it's the wrong way around. And I just love the fact I hated it, and then eventually, like, my brother doesn't listen to them anymore,
Yeah.
as much as I do. I say he doesn't listen to them anymore. But anyway, but it has to be seeing them at Hatfield. Like, it has to be. Because it was such a cool experience being that close to. I don't like going in the pit, really. I'm not that kind of person. I'm too old and too unfit now. Obviously, if I bought a standard ticket, I would have tried to get as close as I could to the front, and I just don't think I would have enjoyed it. Or maybe I would have, but not as much. But being that close to them, and I was right at the front, Hefe side, and they were at the beginning. They were really like silly and animated, like not purposefully coming over to where we were standing, but they were certainly running around. Got a really good view, and then they kind of settled into the set and just faced out front and did the songs. But I loved it. I loved it. I loved meeting them. Smelly was really cool. Obviously, it was like seconds. So, but Smelly seemed sound as a pound. Like, just a really happy guy. Melvin was fine. Obviously, everyone was clamouring over Fat Mike, so he was funny. He was personable. But I actually got there. I got to the Hatfield 2 hours before showtime because I was so excited. I got up and I said to my girlfriend, I think I just have to go. I have to go now because I'm so excited. Like, I just have to. I just have to get there. And then I was sitting under a tree by I just walked in, but not into the thing. Anyway, sitting under a tree, just kind of whiling away the hours. And then I looked up and saw green hair cycling past on a bike, and I was like, "What? That's Fat Mike." And then I was like, "Right, what do I do?" And then I just ran up and went, Mike. And then he was with his girlfriend, I think. I've seen her on social media, and he was like, "Honey, there's someone for you." And and I was like, Mike, and I just couldn't speak. Like, I was starstruck. I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't plan on rushing you like this." And then I was like, "Well, you signed something." And he was like, "I'll sign one thing, but I won't wait." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And then he said he was on his bike, and he went, "Yeah, they've said I'm not allowed to be on my bike in the park." So I was like, "Okay." And he signed so long, and then kind of cycled off. And I was like, "Oh man, I should have got a photo with him. Like, I should have said something like, 'How are you?' or 'I'm looking forward to seeing you later.'" Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I just gabbled. And then luckily, because I'd read about the bro packages online and people hadn't got to meet them and hadn't, there was no time and it was a free for all. But then when we went backstage, like, they came out and they were there for a good, like, I'd say 5-10 minutes, and like really took time talking to everyone. Then I got a picture with Fat Mike, although like I'm standing behind him, leaning over his shoulder with like my phone like in front of his face, and he looks like really grumpy.
I'm looking at the image on Instagram. Yes,
I look like the happiest person in the world, and he's just like, I think it's his shtick, isn't it? I hope.
Yeah. It might just be the moustache. It might be the moustache, but it does look like Flanders is taking a selfie with Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
And Homer is fucking livid about it. There's a real evangelical smile of pure joy. And I mean, I'm guessing, play acted resentment.
Yeah, because I got some other photo. Well, actually, the dude I met took my phone and took the photos, and there's photos of him like really beaming, not with me, but like laughing. But he said to me, he didn't remember me, but he came in and looked at me and went, "Oh, I think I remember you from an Einstein documentary I watched last night. He was bullying me for having a moustache." And I was like, "Cool, I'll take that memory. That's like a fun." Sure. But again, I couldn't say anything. I just went, yeah. So. Yeah,
well, at least we know he's going to be able to handle hecklers when he does with a burn like that.
And then we got the group picture taken, and I was standing next to Smelly, and he hit me in the nuts, and I thought, well, that's a rite of passage. That's like amazing, to be expected. And then
Smelly nut shot.
Yeah,
that's something.
Yeah,
I hope he attacks me.
Yeah. I was like, you guys are from a different era, right? That would be like, okay, it's like, because then I saw him like slap his drum tech on the bum like really hard, like halfway through the set, and I just went, yeah, this is like, this can happen here, can't it? But that can't. Maybe it's a good job you're like retiring.
When you're one half of the Moron Brothers, you maybe shouldn't be surprised. That true. The things going down. Yeah. Apparently, his drum tech is the guy from All American.
Yeah, I saw that online the other day and was like, wow.
Yeah, that's mad. Because I was in one of the forums, and people were having a go at the latest albums because, of course, they were. I think that's the worst thing about being a punk band, is that if you release your final album, there's not going to be a subsequent album for people to rethink your last one about, because it's always the shittest one till the next one, and the last one was actually. I call it Star Wars syndrome.
They've actually they're going to release half album, and in lockdown they did the Patreon thing. That I subscribed to, and I paid $100. But there's an album of that coming out, so that's like 1.5 more albums, and then I think he said he's got another 2. I think they're going to release music.
Oh, they are, yeah.
But
they're going to studio stuff.
Although did you read online that apparently Hefe and Melvin didn't even play on double album? Like the guitars are all done by Fat Mike,
played by John from Old Man Markley, and a guy from the All American Rejects.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about this because on So Long, they had a Boss Tone play the ska guitar.
Yeah.
Spike from the Gimmies doing harmonies.
Yeah.
And they've had different people, but they've always been credited. This would be the first time I've heard of like ghost guitarists.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
And I'm not convinced of that, because the only source I could find was a guy on one of the Facebook NOFX groups saying, "No, I heard it from an engineer who actually engineered on it." I was like,
"You've read the same thing. That's where I got it from."
Because I wrote, "And any source?" He went, "Yeah, I heard it from one of the engineers who works on it."
Then I read your quote as well.
That was me. Wants to remain anonymous. I'm like, I'm sure. I'm like, oh well, that's me. That's me convinced. It was basically a trust me, bro setup, and I was like, well, I don't think so. Although I did hear. Did you listen to the Krista Makes podcast?
Yes.
The Decline, where he said that Hefe didn't play a lot of guitar. Hefe and Melvin didn't play a lot of guitar on the Decline. He mainly did it and stuff like that.
And he said he does all the palm muting on their albums.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, I found really interesting. And I guess they're really hard palm muting rhythms. And he's obviously clearly got that bass style because he can play. So it makes sense. But then I felt sorry for Hefe trying to play them live. He must be like, oh Christ, here we go.
Yeah, well that's it. They're not easy to play rhythmically. And Hefe talks about that in the book, where he talks about having to learn sort of the certainly the muted rhythms and the banana rhythm as well. That banana kind of rhythm that they have in that kind of Californian punk.
Yeah.
And because Hefe was never really that into punk. Like, sort of into it now, but doesn't really, came from a sort of a much more classic rock and metal perspective. But just found playing with NOFX a lot more fun than the corporate stuff he was doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting thing, and I know that obviously he lives with John from Old Man Markley. They live in their little sort of queer Mattersville sort of plantation thing that they live on. And so I don't know, maybe John played the guitars on the demos and the others like learned it that way. I honestly couldn't say, but it would strike me as very odd that they didn't credit it, because they generally do, even when they're very, very upfront and say, Nate from the Boss Tones played all the ska guitar on So Long, and all that kind of stuff. They had the guy from the Mad Caddies play guitar on their cover of Radio,
right?
Because they needed that sort of reggae rhythm that was just necessary for the way they wanted the song.
Yeah.
So they're not opposed to bringing in other musicians to make the record sound the way they want to. So, Ali, what do you think is the best way to introduce a non-fan to NOFX?
Presumably not murder the government.
Yeah, not murder the government. Why I
worked
genuinely, I don't think it would. I think they'd listen to it and go, "Yeah, it's rubbish." I genuinely think they would. But I mean, it has to be the decline, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it has to be. It has to be. Although I've only managed to make one person in my life listen to it all the way, and I was working in an office and said, they were like, "Oh, what music do you like?" I was like, "NOFX, blah blah blah." Or you should listen to the decline. And I had to physically kind of go, put your headphones on and just press play. It's 20 minutes long, but she listened to it all, and then at the end was kind of like, "Oh yeah, well, I listened to it. That's fine." If you're not into it after that, you probably won't be. But it'd probably be the decline, and then failing that, possibly 45, 46 songs that weren't good enough to go on. Or greatest hits, I mean, because that would kind of cover everything, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think throwing them into a whole album might be a bit too much.
I suppose with the greatest songs ever written by us would be that you'll get things like Bob, but you'll also get Separation of Church and State, and so you'll get quite a wide. Right, because when did they release that? Did they release that before or after Coaster, or sometime around then, wasn't it?
It is around then.
Yeah.
There was only a handful of albums that they did after the greatest hits, maybe 4 at most.
It must be before Coaster, because I don't think any Coaster tracks are on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so there's maybe 5 albums that aren't on, that weren't just didn't exist before then.
Yeah.
Because they've got one track from the first few albums. I think they've literally just got the opening tracks from
the opening tracks,
Liberal Animation, S&M,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then from White Trash and Longest Line onwards, they're a bit more generous with it. But so the pre-Hefe stuff, there's only 3 tracks. But yeah, and I think it's interesting to put something like Days to Days in the middle of all of that, because you say, "What is this? It's quite a."
I maintain that I think it does hold up though. Day to Days, I think. And what's the first? Is it Shut Up Already off of Liberal Animation?
Yeah,
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that one, and there's a couple on those albums that are really good, and the rest is I Live in a Cake.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if you really didn't want them to get into it, maybe play them I Live in a Cake followed by the Stephen Hawking song, and then then you can sort of, if people are going for that, you can be like, I don't know if this is actually the band.
Yeah.
So who's going to go for greatest hits or the decline, which is their greatest hit?
Yeah, and then I thought if I had to play them an album to get into them, I think I'd play War and Errors. I think. Because I think that's quite a good album, isn't it? It's quite like if they don't like the first track of So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes, they're probably not going to like any of it. But I think War and Errors has enough variety that they might find something they like, or appreciate the musicianship or something about it.
Yeah, because you've got stuff like Anarchy Camp and Mattersville, Franco Un-American, and
Mediocre.
And Red's favourite, absolutely.
Is that your favourite?
Yeah. It's just it's so good.
It is. Oh no, it's a cracking one. So it starts off with complaining about how punk isn't like it used to be, like all their best songs, and then a bit of social commentary, sort of an actual song with a chorus and all the rest of it. So yeah, it is. It's maybe the sort of, maybe it ticks all the boxes of a NoFX album more than any other.
So.
I hadn't thought of that really. No, that's a great answer. So what? And we've covered a lot of this already, but what do you think is what NoFX's legacy looks like?
Well, I just they are like a shining example, I think, of how to be in a band. You know, they've got clear work ethic. There's that story of them being on an early tour where the headliner dropped out and they carried on going. They obviously have their own record label, Fat Mike, but they just do what they want the way they want. And I think they have. They're obviously quite influential in the pop punk scene. And they're a gateway band, aren't they? When you first get into punk and you like know the famous bands, you then get to know NoFX and go like, oh, this feels a bit different. And then from that, you kind of delve deep and get lost in however far you want to go, and you know, discover the record labels or whatever. So I think they're keeping punk rock alive for a certain demographic of people. I don't think you can argue with that, you know.
No.
Yeah.
And they brought it to the masses in a way, and then they've kept going and doing their own things, and they're not. It's quite interesting when Fat Mike always says they're not a nostalgia band, like you've got to keep releasing new albums, otherwise you become a nostalgia band. And I think their new stuff holds up as well as some of their new stuff holds up as well as their old stuff. So I think they just.
How do you feel about First Ditch Effort? Because I think that is like up there with some of their best.
I think there's a couple of songs I skip on it. I hate Oxymoron.
Same.
I think Oxymoronic is a terrible song.
There's something about it that rubs me the wrong way as well. Yeah.
But it's clever lyrics.
Yeah,
but it's kind of not enough. You know, it's kind of boring to listen to.
It's almost an exercise in poetry, I think.
Yeah,
like it's a good. It's well written, like lyrically.
It does feel like something that would be read at a poetry slam. More than appear on a NoFX album.
Yes.
For my money, anyway. It's also a little sort of. It goes to show that Mike really works best when he's not constrained by the verse chorus verse format really, because I don't know, and they sort of made a video with was it the
Funny or Die
club?
was it
Funny or Die, that was it. Funny or Die.
And they look really awkward, and they're playing the wrong guitars, aren't they? They're like playing like Stratocasters or something.
It's Mike's Jaguar, I think. It's all a little bit. I don't know. Oxymoronic could well have been consigned to the maybe not pile, and I would have not lost any sleep over it.
But I love Biopsy Girl and Deadbeat Mum. I think that's two tracks back to back are brilliant. Generation Z is a great song. 6 Years on Dope's brilliant. I'm not so sure about I'm Sorry Tony. Or
really?
I'm not. It just doesn't do it for me. I like Transvest Light.
Yeah.
I think that's a good track.
I love I'm Sorry Tony. I don't know why. I'm a big nose for a Name fan, and it was a real weird surprise when it was announced Tony Sly had passed away. And that's the album they released, the tribute album, the Songs of Tony Sly, is stunning. I really, really love it. I was just super impressed when it came out. I think I listened to it for like a whole week. It was just like, there's so much cool, but there's so many bands on it and so many cool versions of all these songs, and it was great. And I don't know, I think it seemed like a sort of a watershed moment for Mike, because early, in the 80s and stuff, you're like, oh, did you hear that kid who was at that show died? Oh yeah. And you sort of get a bit desensitized. But there was a lot of it was that thing about it's weird to take photos with your best friend because you never think you'll never see them again. But since then I've been taking photos of my friend. It's it's incredible how much that song has actually changed the way I behave.
Oh.
and I didn't know Tony Sly no more than I know Fat Mike, no more than I know any other musician I've listened to. But for whatever reason, that really struck a chord with me.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you know, it's I think it does sound very familiar to, I think, a song from Home Street Home in the sort of the chord progression, maybe. But ultimately, it is what it is. And to hear Karina belting out her bit over the top of it as well is always a pleasure. But that's drink at home, by the way, if you haven't already. For my mentioning of Karina.
Right.
So that's no, I think First Ditch Effort was possibly a return to form for me. I might not. You know, I think I actually thought it was one of their strongest for a little while.
Was the previous album Self-Entitled? Yeah, I didn't get on with Self-Entitled. I still don't really listen to it that much. I remember the first time listening. I don't like 72 Hookers. It feels like to me it feels like Fat Mike's gone, right, what does a NOFX song sound like? I'll try and write that, and I kind of think that across the whole album. So it just doesn't sit with me. That's all. But then First Ditch Effort came out, and I was like, yeah, I like this again.
Let me see. I'm just trying to see what was on here. I love She Didn't Lose Her Baby from Self-Entitled. It felt like part 2 of She's Gone from White Trash, but I think it's in the same. This is my theory that I keep throwing out, and no one ever backs me up on it, so I'll just leave it. Okay, fine. Only I'm hearing it, not to worry. But yeah. No, it Self-Entitled wasn't their strongest one for me, certainly. The Ronnie and Mags, I was like, I don't know, it's not very convincing. Whereas Nancy and Sid was great.
Yeah, Nancy and Sid is fantastic. Yeah,
really, it was like the successful version of that. That's how you do a silly song about the Reagans and stuff. That's great.
Absolutely.
Really, really great. So yeah, they really brought it back on First Ditch Effort for me, certainly.
Yeah,
seems like maybe for you too as well. So we've come to the final question, one that people wrestle with for hours of sleepless nights. Who's your favourite member of NoFX?
Apart from Lily from the Meths.
Oh yeah.
Who chose to rank them in order?
Yeah. Yeah, without any hesitation whatsoever.
None.
Yeah.
Mind you, Lily from the Meths' response to what is NoFX's legacy was me, the Meths.
Nice.
So, you know.
She has got incredible stage presence, hasn't she?
Doesn't she?
Brilliant.
Like, I saw them for the first time at Hatfield and was just like, whoa. Like, striding across that stage.
Oh, yeah.
It was cool. And they're great.
Her personality really carried through to our interview with her as well. Like, she's
nice.
Just a really fun to chat to.
She's wonderful, And I like the way she does stride across the stage like Godzilla over Tokyo.
Yeah.
Like, really just... Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. But yeah, so...
my favourite members, I mean, I think Fat Mike, obviously I love Fat Mike. He's a hero. But I actually think I think it might be Smelly. I love Smelly, and I got similar. Like, I don't drink anymore, so I'm sober. And then when you read the book and you're like, oh wow, like, you know, the journey that Smelly's been on, and and when I met him, and I just got this like aura of like, this is just a happy dude who's like really just chilled out, loves his life. You see him on social media like a little bit, doing his pickle stick stuff and the few live videos he's done around album releases. He just seems like a really, really sound guy. And I've watched a podcast with him talking about his sobriety. And then there was another interview where someone was talking to him about his career as an artist, and he went, "I'll stop you there. I'm not an artist. I'm just a man that learned a beat and got lucky." And I was like, "Yeah, you're a cool dude." So I'd say Smelly, I think.
No.
I think he's
amazing.
I mean, they're all dudes and they're all awesome.
Yeah.
I think they're all great. But I think there's something about Smelly that is just like, yeah, if I can grow up and be like Smelly, be all right. Yeah.
I think he's the one who came the closest to losing it all.
Yeah.
And maybe that perspective, because it really was like, you get off heroin or you are not in the band. You know, like the day he finished his drums for White Trash, they packed him off to rehab.
Right. Yeah.
As if I'm getting my my history right, they're like, so not only did he record White Trash whilst on heroin, which is baffling enough to me, like, really? Okay. But then it was like, look, this is your last chance. You've sort of, semi-kicked it a couple of times, but now it's got to be. And then he just did. And I think that's hugely impressive. And a lot of people came round to Smelly being who he, or realizing who he is from the book.
Yeah, totally.
His stories in the book. Mike's got some interesting stories. A lot of them are about piss.
Yeah,
and fine, get yours.
Yeah.
But and there's but I think he was sort of candid on his own terms. I think Smelly was sharing stuff that he wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable with, but it's like, the only way to make sense of me is if you know this.
Exactly.
Is my reading on
it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we'll not keep you too much longer because you are in a tiny little insulated studio. And it's
becoming shinier and shinier.
Yes, and it's currently a lovely day in the UK, so you'll just be cooking gently. But Ali, do tell us where we can find your stuff, where people can find out about what you're up to and all the rest of it.
I'm out and about all the time. I think when this comes out, the next significant thing I'm doing is the last week at the Edinburgh Festival. Just a work in progress show called I'm More Interested in What You Have to Say. It's like crowd work, basically, because that's what I find the most fun to do. And also it means I don't have to write much material. So I'm enjoying that. But I'm twice Brice on all social media. And I've got a website, alibrice.com, that probably hasn't been updated ever. But
so if you want to see Ali's Angel Fire website, then
yeah. But thanks for having me. I've had an absolute blast talking about NOFX. I've loved it.
We've loved having you on. Thank you so much. We'll, I'm sure. I mean, basically, the way we're planning on doing this is we're going to keep on going till we've done all their major releases and interviewed as many people as we possibly can. This podcast will probably morph into a general punk rock.
Oh, cool.
Podcast eventually, because we're with an emphasis on sort of a NOFX perspective. That won't be for a little while, but we'll definitely have you back when we're doing broader punk rock in general, or if there's any notable shift in the NOFX world, which I'm sure you'll be on before I am. or reading my comments and taking them as your own. But whichever way it works, we all get our info somewhere. But thank you so much, Ali. You truly are punk rock elite, and we will see you again, I'm sure.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
See you soon, mate.
See ya.
Well, I hope you all feel like weekenders after listening to Ali Brice talk about NOFX.
And I hope you've been listening to everything he said, because we are now going to do a test.
A test which we are definitely going to fail. He's, wow. It really, really makes you feel like you're not qualified to do the podcast you do.
Yeah, maybe we should just pass this podcast over to Ali.
Maybe it will just be it'll be a 3-hour monologue 4 times a week. I don't know what it is about NOFX, but so many people that we've interviewed have said, well, the thing is that my partner, significant other, all of my friends, none of them like NOFX.
Yeah,
it's a really isolating thing to like. It's weird.
That's so true, isn't it?
It's really odd.
We've all got suffering partners who
We do, yeah.
Who are sick of us talking about NOFX.
Yeah, to be honest, Emma has said it's a bit easier now. I can do this at least once a week with someone else because now I feel, you know how you become less of a show off when you start doing stand up. Like you used to be, like at parties and stuff, you'd be the one wanting all the attention. Look at me, I got my trousers on my head, woo woo woo, all that stuff. And then as soon as you start doing stand up with any regularity, it's like, oh hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm like, oh okay. You're getting it all out elsewhere. You become a lot more bearable. So yeah, but yeah, wonderful. I think we've got the first example of the nut shot from Smelly. Got hit in the bollocks by Smelly. That's pretty great. Can't deny that's a bit of a rite of passage for a NOFX fan. I hope Ali wasn't planning on children, but yeah, it's sometimes it's just a treat to hear someone get very into NOFX. What I really like is as much as Ali just loves NOFX and is sort of obsessed with them, he will just say things like, "Oh yeah, I hate that 72 Virgin song. Shit."
Like, yeah, and you know, like, okay. I think the last thing I want from a NOFX fan is for them to be too precious about NOFX and their legacy, because I don't think that NOFX are precious about their own legacy, and I think they'll happily turn around and go like, yeah, that wasn't very good, or we didn't do that right. Like, yeah. They don't think everything they did was perfect, so I always find it odd if I do run into a NOFX fan who thinks that everything they've done is infallible.
Yes, and again, I don't know that I know anyone. I think there's still some people who will sort of nod along if you go, yeah, but I mean, the first few albums weren't stellar all the way through. Although there's plenty of people online who would have you believe that was the only NOFX era. But yeah, so but yeah, what a treat that was. Again, if you've made it this far, very sorry about the heavy opening, but it's such an unpleasant thing that we had to say something about it, and to say something about it in 6 weeks would just be pathetic. No pun on the drummer's nickname.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're gonna start doing it this way from now on, so then like fans can you know, like if something has come up more recently, we can talk about it rather than it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. If we've received something from you and you've not heard back, I may well, or one of us may well have responded through that medium. But if we've not mentioned it on the show, please do remind us. Don't think that that's all you're getting is an email back saying thanks for listening. Slightly more in depth than that, but you know what I mean. Do just nudge it again if you want something. If you want us to share some of your NOFX related stuff, we'd really love that. So do remind us through whichever medium you had, or if you know anyone who you think would be a good interview. If you know of any sort of reasonably well-known NOFX fans, because we've been looking for them.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
We've been hunting them down. We've got some in the pipeline, and we're excited about that. But yeah, so anyway, you can find us at punkrockelitepodcast@gmail.com, punkrockelitepodcast.com, I think. Put a website up ages ago, and I've no idea. Yeah, ages ago. It's basically just a place where you can just send us a message. So if you can't remember it doesn't matter. There's nothing of any great value on there, but it's another way of getting in touch. Instagram, any of that stuff. You can find our coffee page, Ko-Fi, coffee, however you want it, ko-fi.com/punkrockelite. Anyway, it's in the link tree in the description. So if you want to offer some financial support, you can do it that way. If not, just keep sharing the show around, let people know about it. And although now we know that people who like NOFX exist on their own, surrounded by non-NOFX fans, so it's a lot harder to spread the word virally that way, it would appear. But anyway, thanks so much for being here, Red.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Eddie.
No worries at all. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Punk Rock Elite. It was a Pick Scraped and Fruitcake co-production by Eddie French and Red Redmond. If you're not following us on Instagram or subscribed to the podcast, please do. The main theme and production was done by Eddie French. Please contact us at punkrockelitepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.